Hi everyone, my name is Dhiyanah Hassan and welcome to the Art Diaries, my series on exploring the intersections and nuances of utilizing creativity and spirituality as healing modalities. I'm feeling so grateful that I was able to co-create with such amazing and brilliant creative and spiritual practitioners for the wonderful conversational episodes that we've recently had in this series. If you haven't checked them out yet, please do. Most episodes on this series are first access for patrons before going live for public on my YouTube channel, while some episodes may remain patrons only. And I'd like to thank my patrons for their love and support of my work and of the Sacred Library community portal that we are creating together. If you'd like to contribute to my work and be part of its growth, be part of this community that's centered in self-love, creativity, and spirituality, you're welcome to check out my Patreon page through the link in the description box below. So for today's episode, I share a spontaneously recorded time-lapse video of this sweet little painting I made as an affirmation that I'm going to be using on my altar for this year's Lion's Gate. Before I go on, let me just tell you that I recorded this kind of out of the blue with my phone placed on a stand beside me, so there are a few times here and there where the painting gets cut off. I apologize for that. Working with video is still very new to me, and I hope I'll be able to figure out better angles, better ways to hook up the cameras, and better ways to edit as I continue to play around with this format. I also noticed something very funny as I prepared this episode. So my first time-lapse video for this series was episode 2, titled The Blue Guardian, and it was a watercolor painting of a whale's eye. So it was just a singular whale's eye in the center of this blue painting. And now I'm showing you my painting process of a pair of magical cat eyes. So it's kind of funny how that worked out, that both of my time-lapse paintings so far are of eyes. I swear to you, I paint other subject matters as well. But I guess these are just the easiest ones for me to record for now, and hopefully as I get more comfortable with the recording equipment, I'll be able to show you processes that are a bit more diverse, maybe even showing you some slower time-lapse with the digital paintings. So anyway, with this painting, so it's on a little postcard-sized watercolor paper. It's about 300 GSM. And I wanted it to be a small painting because I wanted it to be something that I can first display on my altar as I am working with it as a meditative anchor, as a visual anchor for meditation during this year's Lion's Gate. And I also wanted it to be easy, kind of light enough for me to display up on my little art wall in my studio, or to carry around in my book or in my journal as a kind of bookmark if I want to later on. If I'm creating works like this one in particular where there's an affirmation, there's some words on it, I do like to leave the option open for me to be able to carry it around in my books. I just find that it keeps it a bit closer to me. I feel like I have an intimate relationship with the affirmation, that it's part of my daily rhythm and it becomes part of my body. And that's just one way that I work with affirmation, and also how I utilize my art as an anchor point for these for these kind of energetic attunement with affirmations. So at specific significant moments, whether it's navigating through a big cosmic shift like Lion's Gate, eclipse seasons, and maybe while walking through big personal changes and milestones, I've gotten into the practice of using my art as a way to communicate, receive, and release any kind of energetic imprints or shifts that I need to move through in order for my wider healing and deeper integration of my own self. And when I say integration here, I really mean a wider sense of self-acceptance. I find that as we go through life, we sometimes exile parts of ourselves for the sake of fitting into a certain narrative, for the sake of fitting into other people's ideas of us and other people's expectations of how we should be, what we should be doing with our lives. You know, we basically get bombarded by narratives that are not ours as soon as we're born. And it takes this entire lifetime to undo some of the damages and some of the harm that may have been created, that may have been caused by these external influences, and to journey inwards while carrying forward in the day-to-day. Journeying inwards and kind of clearing up the old structures, clearing up everything that isn't real or isn't in alignment with our soul essence, with the what I call the light of our heart's truth, which is the undeniable knowing that when something is really truly for your good, your soul essence feels like it's being lit up, and your entire body, your entire energetic field gets lit up by this in a way that's beautiful and wonderful and also relaxing. And it can take an entire lifetime, it can take multiple lifetimes, as it often does, to reach that part where we're able to actually touch upon the light of the heart's truth. And as we do so, we'll be naturally inspired to start clearing up the inner landscapes, releasing all that cannot support us in living our truth, and turning that space into a sanctuary for these parts of ourselves that have been exiled. You know, the parts of you that you learned how to shut down as a child because it wasn't welcome in your home, or the parts of you that felt kind of other people thought were really odd, or even you thought were really odd or strange, and you didn't know how to hold space for that. All these exiled parts of ourselves, they have a place within the larger cosmology of our inner life. So being able to welcome them home, being able to let them stay at home in yourself. And some of those parts of ourselves may just come home specifically just to rest. This might be a tired persona. It might be a part of our soul self from the past. It might have even be like a tired warrior, someone who's so exhausted of the fighting or the surviving, and they just really need a place to rest now. And the work of clearing up the inner landscape can really allow us to find ways to be that sanctuary for these parts of ourselves, to find the rest that they need. Because as some of the more tired parts of ourselves rest, the parts of ourselves that are full of life, full of the vitality and willpower needed for us to move forward, they will start coming online. They will also start coming home, and they will also find a place within our internal cosmology where they can help us and support us in fully embodying our soul essence and hopefully opening the doorways towards our destiny in ways that feel truly good, where our destinies don't feel like something that has been placed, like a burden that's been placed on you, like all these stories and narratives that other people might have placed on you. That your destiny should feel like taking a breath of fresh air, that it should feel like freedom for your body, for your mind, and for your heart and soul. So, as an intuitive and highly sensitive person myself, I experience the subtleties of these life changes very intensely. Sometimes so overwhelming that I end up shutting down and retreating for anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 years to give myself the care and attention that I need. This year has been particularly challenging. What with the extended lockdowns here, the unsettling social landscapes, not being able to see my friends for a really long time, and the exhaustion that I've been experiencing lately at realizing that there are just some parts of my reality that have been specifically set up for me to reject. That there are certain things I was born into in this lifetime that are specifically teaching me how to stand my ground and to continuously say no in order to make space for my sacred yes to find me. So Lion's Gate, if you're not sure what that is, I invite you to do your own research into the Lion's Gate portal. Because I believe that when you go looking for, especially these spiritually charged information, this more mystical, mysterious information, what you'll find in your research will be what will be most resonant for you to find in that moment. And what I can share is that basically the Lionsgate portals happen when the stars align above the 3 pyramids in Giza. I experienced it with a very kind of starseed energy, specifically a Sirius starseed energy, which usually begins at around the end of July, with cosmic energies peaking at around 8th of August, so that's the 8/8 portal. And this portal usually brings through a massive energetic download, which I've experienced as unfolding for the next 6 to 18 months. I've experienced really big releases, highly activating triggers, life changes, strange crises that really kind of align with the descriptions of ascension symptoms and Kundalini awakenings. Significant personal milestones usually come sometime after the Lionsgate portals for me. And the time before, the time leading up to it, I'll be experiencing some really miraculous surprises, really unexpected gifts around this time. And I found that to be receptive to the gifts of the portal and to be able to really be continuously ground and anchor into the fact that this is a healing experience, because at times some of these highly activating triggers can feel like punishment, and it can feel like burdens, it could feel like curses, it could just feel really discouraging. And for me, I find that being able to find some kind of consistency around spiritual and self-inquiry practices to prioritize, for me it's prioritizing silence, that has been highly supportive and grounding approach to this particular energy and this particular portal. And that's taken me years to discover, because I remember the first time when I found out about this portal, around this time of this year, I was completely out. Like my body was just in full-on pain and it just wasn't working. And I would be experiencing really severe pains at very specific chakra energy points. And I've noticed that this is a pattern that has somewhat been repeating itself every year, where I do experience something really intense with the body. This year was very similar, although it was not as prolonged, thankfully. And it was something that I realized that, the more I learn how to take care of myself better, the faster I'm able to kind of not so much recover, quote unquote, because some of these processes are literally just to kind of, they're the reflection, the external manifestation of the inner clearings that are happening, the inner shifting, the renovation of your internal landscape to become an inner sanctuary. Sometimes you just got to break walls to build new walls, or to break walls to build new space. That the body will feel it. The body in its cellular reality will feel it. And some of those changes may land in ways that feel very painful and very triggering. I've been able to kind of, at the very least, recover from the more painful parts a bit faster. But at the same time, I understand the more I'm able to take care of myself and recover from the painful parts of it, the more I understand that really what's needed of me is to become more and more caring towards myself, so that the level of care that I show myself, that becomes the new default. Rather than showing myself care in the moment of distress, I show myself care before that happens. Like when I'm feeling a little bit of hint that something might flare up, an old injury or something might flare out. I start to take care of myself before it gets worse, before it gets bad even. And that teaches me how to continue to take care of myself. So it becomes a new default. And every time this happens, I'll have to shift some things. I'll have to maybe shift some kind of routine. I'll find new routines for myself that are most conducive for the kind of care that I need. So maybe I'm doing more exercises, or I'm doing less exercises, or maybe I'm looking towards my food intake, or maybe what's needed more is more meditation and more energetic work processes, or more spiritual practices, or more creative practices. So I allow myself to be really fluid in the ways that I approach my own self-care. And that has definitely taken years of practice to understand and to integrate. And it will continue to take years to play around with my practice, being able to be fluid and flexible with myself in order for me to receive what is really calling me to be received in these moments, in these triggering moments. And that is unconditional self-acceptance. Full acceptance of the softness that you need, that you can give yourself, as well as the fierceness that is needed of you to hold sacred your personal truth, your sacred boundaries, without glossing over the narrative of your life, without reshaping any parts of yourself to seem more benevolent to others, or to seem like a good person to yourself, or to carry forward some of these programs that may or may not have caused harm in your past. I wanted to talk a little bit about why I've chosen this subject matter for this piece. This image actually came to me as I was doing some meditation around Lionsgate, and I started the piece. I just kind of sketched it out into this paper, and then I finished it. I completed the piece as I was observing a 3-day silence practice. A silence practice for me is something that I do regularly, maybe twice to 4 times per year, and that's usually I'll set a few days to a whole week aside specifically to turn up the silence. So I won't be communicating with anyone verbally, and I will limit my text messaging communication so that I'm able to just be in the silence that I need. This has been particularly helpful for me because as I'm healing my throat chakra, being able to kind of have these moments of silence, have these silence practices, not as a way to shut my voice down or anything, but as a way to clear off other people's energies from my voice, has been extremely powerful. So anyway, I was called to do the 3-day silence practice before Lionsgate, and I completed this painting during one of those days. And the reason I chose the cat's eye was because as I was meditating in silence, this was the image that I was shown. This was one of the images that came through really strongly. And with some of these images that come through when I'm meditating, I try to utilize them into my energetic work practices because for me, art is a form of vibrational medicine. Color, visual language, and how certain things are created into a visual portal for me. All of that speaks to something deeper and greater than just a physicality of it, than just a story of it. So I started to do rough sketches and small paintings of some of the visions that come through my meditation. I've been doing that since I was a child, and as an adult, as I was becoming more and more accepting of my own spiritual gifts, I started to very intentionally create spaces in my sketchbooks and in my art practice where I would draw out some of my meditation visions without necessarily editing them, without necessarily putting them into like a project. It's just kind of as they appeared to me in my vision. And this is definitely one of those pieces. So it was the cat's eye, very specific color of the cat's eye, this kind of like amber gold with the rainbow over its third eye, over its forehead. And I added some lines, kind of like tiger markings. I'm fully aware that tiger's eyes, they don't look like this. This is more of a domestic cat's eyes, probably inspired by my own cat. This very specific type of patterning that's very reminiscent of the tiger skins pattern is a pattern that appears in my dream a lot. Once in a while, I'll kind of incorporate some of these patterns. I used to incorporate them a lot when I did the moon paintings, little like kind of swirls and these little like stripes and dots and just the way they dance together. So I wasn't sure if I was going to add that into this particular painting, but as I was completing it, the white of the paper felt too bare, like it felt too empty, and it didn't feel like it held the gaze or the energy that I wanted the gaze to be able to communicate with me. So then I free-handed the stripes around the eyes in this lilac color, which I really love. It was kind of an accidental color that I found just by mixing up some paints one day as I was sketching in bed. And I had some dried bits of it on my palette, so I used the water to just reactivate it and used it for the stripes. And it turned out to be a really nice contrast with the yellow, the golden of the eyes. I'm not really entirely sure why it's cat's eyes in particular, but I do understand that the feline energy, that energy of curiosity, of fierceness, of playfulness, is something that I really resonate with, and I see a lot of that in my inner child, the parts of myself that never really got to be a kid, that never really got to feel safe being a child. I see a lot of that in the parts of me now that is very determined to show up as my biggest champion, as my biggest advocate, and as my biggest ally, is my inner child's biggest ally. So when I look at this painting now, I affirm the soft parts of myself, the most innocent parts of myself, and I also affirm the parts of myself that have learned through trauma and through difficulty and hardships, the importance of boundaries, the importance of saying no, and the importance of holding my own boundaries sacred. And that to me really ties in with some of the personal messages that I've been getting around this year's Lionsgate, to not give up on my dreams, to not allow ancestral or external burdens and the effects of having lived through trauma to compromise my future. To basically not compromise my future and to stop hiding from my destiny and to fully accept myself as a free spirit embodied here on this planet Earth. The reason I wanted to paint the rainbow, it appeared in my vision as well, but I was really happy that it did, because rainbows to me are one of my signs and symbols. You know, like once you start tapping into synchronicities, you might even start tapping into the intuitive practice of asking for signs and symbols when things are going a certain way. So you want a confirmation or an affirmation from the universe. So you're like, give me a clear sign that I'm on the right path. Give me this sign, a very specific sign. You know, maybe it's a white butterfly or a rainbow or a specific type of bird, to show me that I am aligned with my integrity. I am aligned with my truth, or that the decisions that I'm about to make will be good for me. So we kind of enter into the sacred exchange with the universe in this way through synchronicities. And for me, rainbows, what I've learned is that rainbows started to appear to me when I started to really embrace myself as an artist and a healer. And as I kept going, I noticed that rainbows would pop up at really significant moments in my life. And they would appear in the sky. And at first I thought, oh, maybe it's just, where I live. Maybe there's just a little bit more rainbows here. But the truth is, we've lived here a few years and I've never seen this many rainbows until that one moment where I started to present myself as an artist healer to my communities. And then it just started to happen even when I wasn't at home, even when I wasn't looking for rainbows out in the sky outside my window. It started to happen even when I was out and about, and suddenly in the car I would just look out the window and there'll be this strip of rainbow. They've also started to appear in my dreams as these really big, gigantic, magical arches. And so I noticed that every time I have a rainbow visitation in the form of a dream, in the form of a sighting in real life, or some of my crystals will suddenly flash rainbows in places where there weren't any before. These are all usually affirmations and confirmations of something big that I'm going through, something that's going to be good, but also that will be challenging to step through, something that might activate some fear, some old grief, but will eventually become a beautiful experience. So rainbows have that kind of emotional alchemist element for me. And I've been wanting to incorporate more of them into my art, and I've been trying to find ways to do that. So when I had this vision, I was very happy that the rainbow appeared with the vision. And as I painted it, I felt myself being more open and being more open to the ways that I'm called to care for myself during these moments of change, upheavals, and transformations. And to also accept the layers and the variations of my reality. How the fact that a rainbow is essentially one beam of light being expressed in all these different ways. And being able to see myself as one self-actualized, unique, individualized essence being expressed in all these different ways through my art, through my healing practice, through my sharings, and through the ways that I show up for myself and for my loved ones. And even in the ways that I say no to the things that I know are harmful for me, and saying no to the things that have been burdening my wider reality from generational traumas, from ancestral burdens and baggages, and from survival, and from all the things that I learned in survival that are no longer things that I have any room or space to carry forward. Because to do so would be to compromise the beauty of my future, and the beauty of my future is something that is worth me holding out for. It's worth me holding on to, and it's worth me holding out for, which means that I will keep saying no to everything that is not aligned with my truth, with my heart's desire, so that the things that I am here to experience, I will be able to recognize them clearly, and I will be able to say yes to them fully and truthfully. So that's just me sharing how I am using my art practice with my personal healing. So I will be keeping this particular painting on my altar during the Lionsgate portal activation, and maybe even a little bit after that. And after that, it's going up on my art wall. And if you're on my Patreon, I'll probably post some photos of that. And I'd just like to say thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode. And don't forget to check out the rest of this series on my YouTube channel. And I hope you have a wonderfully, deeply healing, and radically self-accepting Lionsgate journey this year. Thank you and take care.